tonight's lineup, accelerating implementation in 2014, we bring you highlights from the 2014 Leaders Summit that was held yesterday.
Our economy will perform considerably strong if it is diversified.
A new copper mill has been commissioned in the autonomous region of Bougainville. But how will commodity prices affect the farmers? And later on, the visa on arrival ban for Australians.
I can't get away from a topic, however much I try, in PNG, so let's go to the heading visas.
What will this ban mean for both countries? Hello, I'm Leah Jarari and you're watching Business PNG, bringing you all your weekly business news and updates. 2014 parliamentary seatings may have resumed today, but yesterday saw the convergence of government ministers, HODs, governors, the Prime Minister and the government's Chief of Staff, all under one roof for the 2014 Leaders Summit. With the central theme of accelerating implementation, the Prime Minister made it clear to all government officials present during the summit that failure is not an option in the implementation of the massive 15 billion kina budget. Scott Wyde with this report.
The Prime Minister's presence at this meeting only affirmed the importance of the task ahead. The government has just 10 months to implement a record 15 billion kina budget passed in November last year. Also present at this meeting were nearly all the governors and ministers. A notable absence was Treasury Minister Don Pollier. While there have been notable achievements in the last 12 months, the PM highlighted some major challenges ahead. Those challenges include the increase in student numbers since the introduction of the free education policy, the new education curriculum that is yet to be put to use in the education system, as well as the lengthy procurement process that is slowing down the awarding of road contracts.
The education sector has been one of the most challenging programs for this government. Our tuition-free education policy has dramatically changed the way in which we deliver education to our children. There has been an enormous increase in the number of enrollments since the policy was introduced in 2012. The trend is expected to continue this year and over the next few years.
The Prime Minister has also stressed the importance of having a diversified economy. That means an economy that is not heavily dependent on mining and petroleum. In many respects, the PM was echoing sentiments shared by commentators and critics of the former Somare government, who said Papua New Guinea should build its agriculture and manufacturing sectors to create economies of scale. In the last 12 months, plunging mineral prices and a sliding kina have shaken policymakers and government planners. And that's because a large part of government revenue hinges on mineral export revenue.
Our economy will perform considerably strong if it is diversified. We have just seen an example of this. In recent months, the impact on our economy because of our over-dependency in one sector, mining and the gas sector. The best way to cushion against any of these unforeseen and unmanageable impacts created by the international trade and trading is to broaden our own economic base.
The Prime Minister is allowing no room for implementation failure. He has hinted at ministers present that the patience of people might just run out if the government fails to deliver.
Still on the summit, Secretary for Treasury Dairi Vele made a stern appeal to all ministers, HODs, as well as governors not to make unbudgeted commitments. Speaking at the Leaders Summit yesterday, Mr. Vele stated that millions of kina ran into unbudgeted items, which was becoming a major concern for the Department of Treasury and a hindrance to the implementation of key priority projects. Michelle Amba with more.
The summit was reminded about the challenges faced by Treasury in releasing funds intended for purposes in the budget. Secretary Vela's sentiment was shared by the Planning Department. They also have problems relating to unbudgeted expenditure. For the 2013 budget, Treasury released 87% of the warrants. Despite the achievements of implementation of the 2013 budget, He says there is still more that needs to be done to implement the 2014 budget.
And put it to this new unbudgeted item. I think previously what's been happening is you've been leaving it to the Secretary for Treasury and Woolapindi House, and when we take it from somewhere else that you're unhappy with.
Mr. Vela said reform was needed to drive economic growth. Giving an overview of what to expect in the next budget, the Secretary said the budget will be framed according to priority areas such as the 2015 Pacific Games, roads, tuition fee-free education, and the upcoming APEC meeting. Treasury also called for a new policy to centralize all debt functions.
Must come through Woolapindi House. You can't have a government where different departments, different state agencies and different provinces are going out and sorting their own debt out, because we can't see it. It's difficult for us to repay.
Understanding the budget and how it works is seen by Treasury as the challenge for department and provincial heads. The 9.5 billion Kina budget for 2013 adds some positive indicators with the introduction of decentralizing financial powers.
You're watching Business PNG. More when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Business PNG. Bougainville can now directly produce its own copra oil and export it overseas. The new copra mill, Pristine 101 Limited, has fulfilled the ABG's vision of the downstream processing of copra for self-sustainability. But with the unfavorable commodity prices, would this new investment be regarded as a blessing or a misfortune? In this segment, we join Fabian Hakelitz, who talks to the farmers themselves on location in the autonomous region of Bougainville on the matter.
Bougainville is well known for many historical facts. The giant closed open Katpangune mine that once produced the nation's wealth, and the largest copra plantation in the Pacific, Numa Numa, about 60,000 hectares. And this common praise, even before the Pangune mine, copra was present. Copra, apart from cocoa, is one of Bougainville's leading cash crops, which many families depend on for sustainability. Whenever copra prices drop, as a consequence, farmers do suffer. Last year, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill announced that the budget deficit level has remained unchanged at 35% GDP due to the collapse in commodity prices.
Commodity prices are down. Gold, copper, oil, and every price is coming down.
Since the price dropped, farmers have lost interest working in the plantations. While some buyers try their best to help farmers, still it's a hard to wake up call to most. Madonna Bita is one of the mothers who depend on copra for income. Copra is all means to her livelihood, and those are the families, especially in the North Bougainville area. School fee is one of the major expenses that families aim for.
You me live lo money tete. All get something you me buy. Na time pay blo copra goda na wasem. Me pla all farmers blo place and me pla kissim time straight. No got money lo buy. Soap, rice, tin fees na. All needs blo me pla.
The unsteady price hasn't gone well with farmers, and it's vacation time, says Madonna. Farmers have to find other alternatives to earn income for the family. Steady and stabilization funds is the cry to the national and autonomous Bougainville governments, so farmers aren't affected.
Ting blo me all say me like him ABC government na national government. Only must sit down na straight him talk blo apim pay blo copra. Lo inapim ting na like blo me pla all farmers lo place because now pay blo copra go down me pla oklokisim time straight.
Also supporting the call is ABG's Hagoga constituency member Peter Sawyer, who says he'll push for a corporate stabilization policy to be introduced in the Bougainville House of Representatives that will protect farmers' interest.
Inside lo Bougainville yet, so that you may put him some money lo this stabilization fund. Now I'm stop, silly stop. Time price lo copra come down, then you can use him this money lo up in back price so that man blo peles, farmer blo peles ino suffer. Now you me suffer no good through ya. Price come down lo, dedi toya ya. Who's it like walking copra moya? Pele se pull up lo altar olo kuru ya.
While copra price is unsteady, the national government has rescued farmers, announcing a copra stabilization fund to be soon introduced.
With the government's announcement in the drop of commodity prices, this has affected farmers in the autonomous region of Bougainville. Many do depend on copra to earn an income to pay for expenses such as school fees, and they have called on the autonomous Bougainville government with the national government to intervene and subsidize for copra prices so that Bougainville does not fall on the poverty line.
Agriculture and Livestock Minister Tommy Tomskol, while officiating at the new copra mill in Buka, owned by Pristine 101 Limited, explained the government's interest is on farmers. With eyes now on agriculture to raise the internal revenue, it's important to provide incentives.
Because you are guaranteed that at certain level, even if the world market price comes down.
Minister Tom Skoll and Bougainville Vice President Patrick Nisra commissioned a new mill that has opened business doors to farmers buying copper directly and producing oil. The Agriculture Minister said that Bougainville has been one of the major producers of copra and cocoa in the Asia Pacific, with the potential to directly export its produce.
Export powder copra, powders and copras, oil, cocoa butter, we must come down. So there is going to be a major change when it comes.
But it's so sad, says Madonna. Oleiba and Prut have always been exported to other provinces like East New Britain. That should be Bougainville's significant revenue generator.
Mipla mas manufacture miet lo here, lo Bougainville, so that mipla Bougainvillians bakarim name lo disla, got name lo copra yet, because mipla all farmers, all producers blo copra.
Mr. Nisra spoke on downstream processing as the way forward for agriculture and thanked the company for their keen interest to assist Bougainville farmers.
We plan to export the raw product, but we play must downstream, not downstream processing, and we wait to go so that copra farmers or cocoa farmers or one farmer or one industry start long by kissing good money.
Investing on agriculture or on economic impact crops like copra is vital. The new copra mill is a dream come true after so much dialogues since the Kawi-led government in 2009, as explained by Nisra.
Long 2009, government of President Kawi and the leadership long Mr. Watawi or St. Thomas Minister, Nipla looking importance long copra now one impact long copra especially long people long buka people long sell out now communities who depend long copra.
So far, the mill has attracted copra farmers who have begun producing copra again. Farmers and service providers incentive scheme also available that pays their hard work and effort. Looking back at the copra production around 1978 to 1989, according to one of the online published report, before the Bougainville crisis, prices ranged well above 20,000 tons annually. A drop was recorded in 1990, but then began increasing again in 1992 to a height of 10,000 tons. And this common praise, even before the Panguna mine, copra was present.
People Blobuka no long time, even time mining operate lo arawa, people Blobuka, lifeline, livelihood long on every depend long copra nakakao. We believe too, time we opening mining back lo Panguna, people Blobuka, life long all by continue, long depend, long copra nakakao.
Don't go away. When we come back, our headline story, Dennis Herrera with a report on the visa on arrival ban. Welcome back. You're watching Business PNG. Australia's Foreign Minister, Julie Bishop, was in the country last week seeking clarification from the government after the National Executive Council made a decision to require all Australians wishing to travel to PNG to apply for a visa pre-departure. The move, done in what Prime Minister calls reciprocation, has been met with some opposition. However, the O'Neill-Dion government remains adamant that it will go down this route. But the Australian government remains positive that online visa applications is the way forward for both countries. But given the fact that the ban is only a signature away from enactment, what will this mean for both countries? Dennis Herrera with the reports.
The PNG government recently made a decision to put a ban on Australians getting visas on arrival easily here in Papua New Guinea, which is expected to come into effect on March 1st. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, speaking at the launching of the National Working Group recently, expressed the frustrations that Papua New Guineans go through when applying for visas.
The issue has been that our citizens have been complaining, where you've been asked to provide bank statements when you apply for a visa. You've been asked to stand in lines. All sorts of. Once you get a visa, when you go down to the immigration in Australia, you've been asked to queue up. They said, mistreated in many a time. So I had to take a decision that our people wanted us to take. And that is that we will give him the same treatment that we get when our citizens go down.
The move has sparked concerns by the Australian government with regards to its longtime friend PNG. Australia and PNG have had a strong partnership throughout the years. This historical relationship is today reinforced by trade and investment ties between the two countries.
Australian investment in PNG from 2007 to 2013 was worth just over 19 billion Australian dollars. Two-way trade between Australia and Papua New Guinea at the end of 2013 was worth 5.8 billion Australian dollars. Australian imports from PNG are worth 3 billion Australian dollars, while Australian exports to PNG total about 2.8 billion Australian dollars.
Australian Foreign Affairs Minister Julie Bishop, who vowed to improve the visa arrangement and other issues between PNG and Australia when she was in the opposition, made an official visit to PNG last week. She said the best way forward is for Papua New Guineans to apply for their visas online.
I can't get away from a topic, however much I try, in PNG, so let's go to the heading visas. One would think that that's all we talk about. But in fact, I had a very productive discussion with both Prime Minister O'Neill and with Foreign Minister Pato yesterday about the issue of visas. Of course, we want to see greater mobility between our two countries. And I believe that the introduction of online visas is the way to go.
Bishop revealed this during a press conference when she arrived and also at a business breakfast the next day. She said Australia is offering the opportunity of online visa application for Papua New Guineans so they can apply for a visa to Australia online before they leave their country, as visas on arrival in Australia can be a long wait. The government's decision to ban Australians from getting visas on arrival in Papua New Guinea is to reciprocate for Papua New Guineans in having to face strict visa criteria and lengthy processing times. Bishop, on her fourth visit to PNG, said applying for an Australian visa online will ease the situation for Papua New Guineans rather than trying to get visas on arrival. Bishop highlighted the importance of PNG-Australia bilateral relations, urging for stronger economic partnership and prosperity.
From opposition, I spent a lot of time thinking about how we could take the myriad connections that exist between our two countries, the historic, the cultural, the geographic, the economic, the social ties, how we could build that into an even stronger partnership.
The Pacific Islands News Association website reported that former Member of Parliament and Madang businessman Sir Peter Bata warns that the decision by the PNG Cabinet to ban visas on arrival for Australians entering the country spells disaster for the tourism industry. Sir Peter also raised concerns on the state of the tourism industry, saying it would be experiencing a marked decline in the number of inbound tourists. He said during the construction phase of the PNG LNG project, Ramu Nickel and other resource developments, there had been an increase in the number of visitors arriving at the airport, but those coming for sightseeing and related tourism have declined. The website also reported that Mendi MP Dea Kewanu has called on the PNG Tourism Promotion Authority and Sir Peter Butter to provide in figures how many Aussie tourists come into the country annually and how much Australia contributed to the tourism industry. Kewanu says Papua New Guinea is a sovereign state and should be accorded the same respect as Australia. He said there is no reason why the long overdue reciprocal rights with Australia should be implemented. He went on in saying that PNG is now a sovereign state and a trading partner with Australia, as well as a former colony and its biggest aid recipient in the region, but PNG is also a big player in the region and has been playing second fiddle for too long. Kewanu said if a country far away in the Middle East like Israel can recognize PNG visas on arrival, why can't our oldest and closest friend Australia do the same? Oro Governor Gary Jufa also commented on the issue in an interview last week.
In regards to issuing visas immediately to Papua New Guineans or making that more accessible, I would imagine that we in Papua New Guinea have to also review our efforts in regards to how we facilitate passport issuance in this country. Australia is concerned because Papua New Guinea has demonstrated a bad habit of issuing passports to anybody. And we've seen that already. They've issued a passport to a transnational criminal from Indonesia. So Australia obviously is going to be concerned. If Papua New Guinea is dishing out passports to whoever, and if they allow their borders to be easily accessed by anyone with a Papua New Guinean passport, well, you can see the reasoning there.
So it is hoped that the online visa application option offered by Australia to Papua New Guineans to avoid queuing up and long waiting will be the way forward for both countries, resulting in the ease of access between them.
The Australian PNG Business Council supports the vision of unrestricted movement of citizens from both countries, and we recognise that there is much to be put in place before this can occur, and that both countries' officials have a role to play in achieving this. On the Australian side, the Australian PNG Business Council made representation to the Australian government officials in 2011 about the difficult and lengthy process that was required for our Papua New Guinea employees to get visas to attend conferences, workshops and training in Australia. It is very pleasing to note that the process has been made much simpler, and no longer do we see lines outside the Australian High Commission at Waigani.
There are concerns, however, of Papua New Guineans applying online, with some not able to do so. The Australian government has also considered this and is looking at ways to have it sorted out through technological assistance.
So what we have offered Papua New Guinea, and it was the first offer we made to any country in the world, is the ability to apply for a visa online. Now that means you've got to have access to a laptop or a PC, of course, but it can be done by third parties on your behalf. It can be done by friends, relatives, employers. A whole range of people are able to do it. And we're investigating travel agents. So if you're buying a ticket, well, you can get your visa at the same time.
Minister Bishop also visited Lae during her visit to see the progress of work on the Angao Memorial Hospital, expected to cost about $1 billion kina, as well as the Australian Federal Police that were brought into PNG last year as part of an agreement between PNG and Australia.
And that's all we have for you tonight. Make sure to visit our webpage. Also, don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Leanne Durari, and this is Business PNG.